A winning driver stood in front of a camera and said another group of teams had something and does not have it anymore. He would not name them directly, but the reporting did, and the name attached to it was Toyota. What he was pointing at was not a scandal or a penalty, it was a tiny part on the nose of the car that NASCAR quietly ordered every team to add. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. just explained exactly how it worked. To understand why this matters, you have to start with where the season stood. Toyota owned 2026, Tyler Reddick collected 5 wins, Denny Hamlin collected 4 wins. At Chicagoland in July, 7 Toyota cars finished inside the top 10, which is the most ever for a single NASCAR Cup Series race. Toyota built a large lead in the manufacturer's standings and never looked back. By early July, Toyota was ahead of Chevrolet by more than 100 points, and Ford was buried far behind both of them. Part of that gap came down to Chevrolet. Chevrolet rolled out a brand new body for the season and spent months fighting balance problems in the cars. That situation left Ford as the only realistic challenger to Toyota, and for most of the year, Ford was not close. The order of the sport looked settled, and there was no reason to expect it to change before the playoffs. There was also a layer of suspicion around Toyota's run. Plenty of conspiracy theories had risen during the year, mostly surrounding the 2311 racing lawsuit win against NASCAR, but for the most part, the dominance had felt like the normal cyclical run that manufacturers go through. Combine that with the balance struggles at Chevrolet, and it was clear that Toyota entered 2026 with an upper hand, leaving only Ford to realistically challenge until Chevrolet could work through the issues in its cars. That was the backdrop when the quiet rule change arrived. Then, at the end of July, a comment on a podcast changed the conversation. Mamba Smith was talking about Team Penske and specifically Joey Logano on Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour. He said something small that fans latched onto right away. I know there was a little adjustment with the nose of the car with the splitter that they feel like might help their program out a little bit when it comes to downforce, Smith said. Then he added a warning about Joey Logano. You let people hang around that you're supposed to beat, and then they end up coming back and smacking you in the face. And then, it's too late. Fans wanted to know exactly what that adjustment was, so they asked Bob Pockrass of Fox Sports. Pockrass gave the answer directly. Starting with North Wilkesboro, the teams had to add some struts to the front of the splitter that should keep it from moving/deforming while at speed, he wrote. Whether that was a significant advantage Toyota found is debatable in the garage. They still were strong at Indy. That is the entire rule change. Struts, which are small metal supports, added to the front of every car. There was no memo and no headline, just a new part bolted to the nose. According to the reporting, the flex in the splitter was discovered through Toyota. Here is why a small part like that can matter so much. The splitter is the flat piece that sticks out at the bottom of the nose of the car. It works like a blade. It cuts through the air and pushes the front of the car down into the track. The lower and flatter that blade sits at speed, the more grip the driver gets in the corner. So even a very small amount of movement in the splitter can change how quickly a car can turn and how much speed the driver can carry through it. The significance did not go unnoticed by the people who race for a living. Brad Keselowski, who is both a driver and a team owner, saw the post from Bob Pockrass and replied to it. This didn't really get any media play, but was a big deal emo, Keselowski wrote. Keselowski finished inside the top 10 in both of the races right after the change took effect. He is not a driver looking for an excuse. He is a competitor who watched something shift and said so in public. The first race under the new part told its own story. North Wilkesboro was the first points-paying event at that historic short track in 30 years, and Joey Logano crushed the field, leading 323 of 450 laps and snapping a 45-race winless drought that dated back to the previous May at Texas Motor Speedway. Joe Gibbs Racing pushed him hard, but not hard enough. Ty Gibbs won the opening stage, but the number 54 car was caught speeding on pit road during the stage break and dropped to the rear for the restart. Denny Hamlin took over as the lead Toyota and finished second. Just a smidge off, Hamlin told TNT Sports after the runner-up finish. The final stage came down to a heads-up battle between Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin. and the pit sequence decided it. Chris Gale, the crew chief of the number 11 car, undercut Paul Wolfe, the leader of the number 22 bunch, by 1 lap, calling Denny Hamlin to pit road at lap 359. Joey Logano hit pit road the following lap and rejoined the race barely ahead. He took the lead back with 70 laps remaining and held on for the victory by 859 thousandths of a second. That result gave Denny Hamlin his league-leading 11th top 5 finish of the 2026 season and extended his regular season championship lead to 68 points over Tyler Reddick. Ty Gibbs finished 4th, earning his 9th top 5 finish and a new personal best for a single season, while Christopher Bell, who fought brake issues for much of the night after looking like the class of the field in practice, placed 19th. Chase Briscoe put on one of the drives of the night, starting 30th and climbing to 8th in the first stage. Then fighting through a lap-down moment in the second stage to pit for fresh tires and drive up to 3rd by the lap 265 marker, tallying 11 stage points for the evening. Our car was exceptional on the long runs, so I could run wherever and passed a lot of cars, Briscoe noted. The teams inside the garage were already looking ahead. And Chase Briscoe spoke about the stretch of short tracks in front of them. There's a lot of short tracks coming up. We have to step our game up, Briscoe said. We're good. We just need to be that little bit better to where we're at on the mile and a halves. That comment matters because it came from a Toyota driver openly admitting that the short tracks were the harder ground and the mile and a half tracks were the home turf. Then came Richmond. Joey Logano won the Cookout 400 at Richmond on August 15, 2026. It was his second win of the season. Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic asked him whether he now felt like a real threat to win a 4th championship and pointed to speed on the mile and a half tracks. Joey Logano did not dodge the question. Yeah, I feel much better about it. Some of the rules that have been changed recently I think helped us some, kind of brought some of the guys that were taking advantage of some of that stuff more back towards us. I think that helped, he said. Read that answer carefully. A winning driver said on camera that another group of teams was taking advantage of something, and that they have now been brought back toward the rest of the field. Jordan Bianchi later added his own reporting on his podcast, The Teardown. He described how the front splitter on some of the cars had been shifting slightly in the airflow and how NASCAR, around the time of North Wilkesboro, mandated a brace to stabilize that component so it could not move with the air and create an advantage. Then he said the part that matters most. According to Jordan Bianchi, no team was found to be breaking the rules. And NASCAR introduced the change as part of its effort to police the cars, not to punish anyone. He also pointed to the manufacturer that had been the focus of attention, Toyota, and specifically the teams at Joe Gibbs Racing and 2311 Racing. Even with those names attached, officials did not report any violations. That is where Dale Earnhardt Jr. stepped in and explained what this actually looked like in person. That's one train of thought, and I think that's partly true, he said, before describing the trick that teams had been using. The teams, to maximize aero on this car, the teams kind of make the car like a banana, and there were some ways that the teams were. If you would walk through the garage anytime before the race and the teams had the cars up in the air on jack stands, they also have jacks underneath the front splitter. That detail is the key to the whole story. Jacks placed under the nose of the car while it sat on jack stands in the garage. Dale Earnhardt Jr. then explained why those jacks were there. And that is to keep that in a certain position so that it'll go through tech and pass, but as the weekend goes, that all starts to settle into where they want it to go, he said. He continued describing what happened once the car left the garage. The car goes out on the track and it runs, and things move and twist and carry on. And the car kind of moves into what positions that they want it to be in. In plain terms, the car passed inspection in one shape and then slowly settled into a different shape by the time the race started. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was direct about how NASCAR responded to the situation inside the garage. NASCAR said, "We'll put a stop to this because we think some teams are doing it better than others. Or maybe some manufacturers are doing it better than others, I don't know," he said. But NASCAR decided to change how that front structure on the splitter is held in place, and that took some of that sort of banana effect out of the cars. That's the idea. He also asked people inside the garage what they thought about it, and he did not get a single answer. Some told him the change would not affect anything. Others told him it could change how some teams were using the setup to their advantage. This is where Dale Earnhardt Jr. pumped the brakes on the whole story, because he believes there may be a much simpler explanation for the change and results. Have they turned it around? He asked about Ford. So there's a couple trains of thought here. Are they just going to racetracks where the advantage that the Toyotas had throughout the season? He then listed the tracks that favor Ford. We figured so you got tracks like Richmond, Wilkesboro, Loudon, New Hampshire, Phoenix, Martinsville. The Fords are good. Better, they've always been great good at those racetracks. Are we just at the part of the season where we're going to racetracks where the advantage isn't quite as big? The results since the struts arrived support both sides of the argument at once. Toyota has not gone away. At North Wilkesboro, Toyota had 4 of the top 6 finishers. At Indianapolis, Toyota finished 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th. At Iowa, Toyota had the winner, the runner-up, and 4 of the top 6. Even at Richmond, where Joey Logano won, Chase Briscoe finished 2nd, Denny Hamlin finished 5th, and Christopher Bell finished 7th. Ford has clearly improved as well. At North Wilkesboro, Ford had 5 of the top 11 finishers. At Indianapolis, Ford had 4 cars in the top 8 and 7 cars inside the top 15. The complication is that every single one of those tracks is a place where Ford has always run well, which is exactly the point Dale Earnhardt Jr. keeps returning to. So Dale Earnhardt Jr. offered the only real test he could think of. Send these boys to 1.5 miles. Then I'll be able to tell you a little bit more, he said. I mean, if you send them all out to 1.5 miles racetrack where the Toyotas have just been really strong and the Fords are running up front or leading or running well, and it's a mixed bag of manufacturers in the top 5, then I'm more to think that it's that change that NASCAR made. That is the entire question in one sentence. Toyota's biggest edge all year has been on the 1.5 mile tracks, and NASCAR has not run one since the change was introduced. The schedule is what makes his question so difficult to answer right now. New Hampshire comes next. Then Daytona closes the regular season, and Daytona tells nobody anything because it is a wreck fest and a coin flip where the fastest car does not always win. The 1.5 mile tracks that decided so much of the season are simply not on the calendar for the rest of the regular season. That means the real answer does not arrive during a quiet summer weekend. It arrives in the playoffs. The playoffs begin September 6 at Darlington. Kansas comes on September 27. Las Vegas follows on October 4. Charlotte is on October 11. And the championship race is at Homestead on November 8. Every single one of those tracks is an intermediate track. Every single one is where Toyota built this season, and every single one is where the manufacturer standings and the driver title will actually be settled. Which means the answer to the question from Dale Earnhardt Jr. does not come cheaply, and it does not come early. It comes with the championship on the line, on the exact tracks where Toyota has been untouchable all year in front of everybody. If the struts really did take something away from those cars, the bill does not come due in August. It comes due in the playoffs, on the intermediate tracks where the title will be decided, and that is the part that should make every Toyota team pay very close attention to a small metal part that arrived with no announcement at all.